Good morning, everybody. Before I start with today's psychic weather report, if you would like to support my work, you could just buy a book. The link is below. What's happened is that, like everyone else on YouTube, a lot of my videos have been recently demonetized. This is not like I'm not a victim. This is happening to everyone. And I was talking to one chap who runs a very good historical channel where they pay presenters produce videos of a high level with very good production and everything. They even, they even hire scores to be written for soundtracks, and they've had about half of their videos demonetized, even though they're educational videos about war, about historical history, because they trigger people. This is the whole thing now. The YouTube wants to make sure that anything that's in any way considered above the level of, say, Teletubbies is considered frightening to people, and there's all it takes is for one snowflake to see a swastika in a history channel on a video, an educational video about history, and the whole channel is either demonetized or shut down. Now, I'm not going to BitChute, and I'm not doing Patreon or any of that stuff. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. So just one of the reasons I do the videos is they're fun, they're interesting, they get my work out there, but they're also a promotion for my books. So my books are like part of this, and that's probably the only way going forward. Like the last few videos have been demonetized straight away, and this probably will as well. And all my channels, way going back, loads of them have been demonetized to turn to the grey dollar sign or the yellow dollar sign, not the green one. So, but that's okay. I'm not a victim. It's unfortunate, and I never made a huge amount from YouTube, but it was nice to have a few quid come in and pay things like an electric bill or something. So if you have, you want to help me out, just buy a book below. If you already have it, buy it as a gift for someone else or something. But anyway, yeah, that's life. So yeah, this morning I want to talk about what happened at Canning Town Tube Station with Extinction Rebellion this morning. Now, yeah, if you haven't heard, two Extinction Rebellion climate change protesters got on top of a London Underground train and prevented it from moving. They held up a banner saying "Extinction Rebellion, business as usual equals death." They were the typical tweedy. One of them was like a character out of Viz. He was like a tweedy school teacher or civil servant or Labour councillor type. The other one was like, they both look, of course, both white men, privileged white men, holding up working class and minority people from getting to work. Now, what you have to remember is that when you stop one train on any transit system, the protocol is to shut down the entire line. Trains in both directions completely shut down. Completely shut down. Now, uh, that's that's first of all, that's their selfishness. I bet both of them are either work for a university or are civil servants, or have, the younger one looked like he had probably income from his grandpapa Quinton, and in the colonies. And so they got paid days off of their civil servants or university teachers to do this. And yeah, now it's important stuff. The psychic weather aspects of this. Well, what we're seeing now is Extinction Rebellion moving towards the self-sacrifice stage. This is absolutely a cult, and there's no doubt about it. Now, if you look at the leaders of Extinction Rebellion, they could easily be in a flying saucer cult. Both of them have the personality of a peanut, the charisma of an empty chip bag, and that's a classic cult leader. Cult leaders never have charisma, or never. That's a myth that they have charisma, and they have this magnetic quality to them. They're not. They're usually creepy dullards. They're usually boring, annoying people, and for some reason they have an ability to attract fanatics, and it's these fanatics who really run the cult, and that's what you're seeing here now with the Extinction Rebellion thing. We had initially them were doing things like all the religiosity is now in place, but it's also very alchemical. You had the initial thing where they were lying down on the ground, they were gluing themselves to the ground. This was the almost like a symbolic death of the self, a symbolic self-sacrifice, and this was a way of like wiping themselves out, killing the person they were. This is why they're obsessed with death and things like pouring blood. Here's coffee. Oh, it's good. And simple things in life is what makes you happy. But they then they had them these women dressed in red robes walking around like they were angels of death, and then they brought in the Greta Thunberg sainted thing. And these people have incredible power in the media. If the Irish Times this morning actually stated that climate change is now a major voting issue in Ireland. I've never had a conversation with anyone in this country who was worried about climate change. They're more interested in the potholes in the road. It's also a diversionary thing. The government and the media in Ireland work very closely hand in hand because they're all part of the same social elite. A picture was shown yesterday of a homeless child in Dublin eating his food off a sheet of cardboard on the street. This is a way of diverting from that. So you have all these posh Irish types walking by, a child eating off a piece of cardboard on the street. Something I never, even when I grew up, when I was growing up in Ireland, it was poor, right? You never saw people on the streets homeless. Now you see children on the streets. Well, the political and social and media establishment are terribly concerned about climate change. You know, this kind of thing. Maybe the Irish Times has gone full Extinction Rebellion. They're accusing Irish personalities who don't worship Greta Thunberg of having Greta derangement syndrome. Where did they get that one from, hey? And you have to remember, like, a lot of people who work in newspaper journalism and media journalism are addicts. A lot of them are alcoholics. A lot of journalism is ravaged with alcoholism and drug abuse, and they can't, because they think themselves too intelligent to become religious fanatics like a typical addict would. They become climate change fanatics, and that's why so many journalists and people in the media who are like raging were raging alcoholics are now all raging Greta Thunberg followers. But this so then they went. Now they're up on the trains, right? Now this is very symbolic. They were two privileged white males, the standard, Extinction Rebellion, type, on top of a train, looking down at working class people and minorities, telling them directly that we are in charge of you, just like our grandparents were in charge of you when my my grandpapa Quentin was a diplomatic attaché in the Transvaal. And that's what they're now in charge. They're telling the working class and the minorities, you are not going anywhere except to extinction. And that's what they're doing. And that's why they held that. And I was delighted when I saw the people pull them down and put the boot in. But they didn't expect that. These people have a messianic quality. They thought everyone at the. You see, this is what happened with cult members. When a cult member steps out of the cult and thinks they believe that what they believe in the cult is what everyone in society believes. Those two thought they'd be on the train while all the people on the platform would be going, bravo, bravo, bravo. Instead, they got a taste of reality out there. No one gives a fuck about this issue because they know it's all bollocks. And even if it was completely true, why are people who travel to Bali and all these other places to fight climate change, and people in private jets lecturing people who are just trying to get a fucking tube train to work to earn coin to pay their bills? It's to tell them you're now dead. It's what when you stand on top of a train and you point. They picked a working class train station. They didn't do it in Kensington or Holland Park or one of the posh snooty parts of London. They did it in a working class area filled with immigrants, and they stood on top of the train and they pointed the fingers down at them to put them in a state of superiority to the masses. So this is what Extinction Rebellion as now. It's almost like the alchemical wedding. The death on the streets was the death of the king and the queen. They've now become and remember all the people, all the body dysmorphia and all these people, like 57 genders. That's now that they've entered the sacred. They've gone through the sacred hermaphrodite element, and they're now being reborn as the sacred godly hermaphrodite, and that's what they are now. The Extinction Rebellion is now at the stage where, if it had political power, and by Jesus, it's very close, not because of a mandate from the masses, but a mandate from the media and the political establishment, that they're ready to start killing. They're ready to start killing. They'll either be mass suicides or they will start killing others. And that's what they did this morning, was a symbolic murder. It was to take the money out of directly take the money out of people, working class people, trying to get, and middle class people who don't give a fuck about this stuff, trying to get to work, Okay, and this is the carbon tax, and it doesn't affect them because they're probably, like, as I said, civil servants or university types, and they get paid anyway for going to demos. And so the psychic weather of all this is, like I said, I'm not just here to read the news. I'm to tell you how the psychic energies, that you understand this, you can get through life much easier. You won't be shocked by what happens in the world. They're going, there's going to be a bloodletting soon. They have reached that stage. They're going to set themselves. You see, things are always ironic. Like, they stand on top, they claim to be for sustainability, yet they block the most sustainable form of transport, which is what? Public transport. So they stopped public transport. They spray the Treasury building in London with what? A diesel powered fire engine. Okay? Well, it's always ironic. Everything they do is ironic. Remember that. Because cult members have no sense of their own irony. They just have no sense of their own irony. And so that's another thing. They now they're they it just doesn't stop. It's like flying off the climate change summits in Bali. It's always ironic, and that irony is what generates their increasing detachment from society. They get further and further away from society. Now, they're not like me and you who says, fuck, this is the world is a fucking lunatic asylum, and you go sit in and you keep your own circle tight and quiet, and you don't really get involved. They're literally creating a new world. And for the old world to die, the new world the new world to begin, the old world has to die. And this is, I can guarantee you right now, there are Extinction Rebellion people who are sitting around planning bombings, murders, kidnappings, assassinations. I would think they'll do something like they'll kidnap the child of a corporate business owner or something like that. If I was someone if I owned an airline or something like that, right now I'd be hiring extra security. They'll do something like this. Now, of course, this will fail. Now, what will happen to these Extinction Rebellion types? Many will commit suicide. Others will kill their own children, unfortunately, and families. They will they'll be doing things like poisoning their children and going, you must, like for Greta. This is what they're like. In the 1960s, a lot of their previous generation, which were the hippies, who were absolutely useless human beings, I might add. These were all rich kids who didn't go. It's always rich kids. Rich kids who didn't go to Vietnam because their parents could buy them a fake doctor certificate. Nearly all became Jesus freaks. So many of them became Jesus freaks, and then on to becoming pastors and super churches and all this stuff. Will the Extinction Rebellion types become Jesus freaks? I think a lot will. I think a lot will convert to Islam. I think a lot of these will convert to Islam because they'll still want to feel superior to others, and and they still have to validate that religiosity. And as because Christianity is a dying religion, they will not go for that. They want to be in a state of ascendancy, so they'll go for a very thriving religion like Islam. They will not become pagans. Any of these ones, like when I'm seeing, it's more and more, I'm seeing a lot of pro Extinction Rebellion stuff on pagan sites. I had to unfollow an astrologer that I used to follow because he's just giving it non-stop, giving it fucking non-stop, and bringing politics into everything. The same thing with any, like if you're a pagan, you can't do politics. You just can't. You just can't. Not modern politics. You could do tribal politics in your tribe, but not this stuff. And so there's not the so they're desperately trying to politicize paganism in order to try and dovetail it into the whole Extinction Rebellion thing, but it's not going to happen. Guarantee my words. I guarantee, mark my words, and I guarantee this. When they stood on those trains this morning, that was them saying to the rest of the world, particularly working class people, you are inferior to us. Who was the last ones to do that? the NKDV and the Bolsheviks in Soviet Russia, the Chinese Communist Youth League, the Chinese Communist Cultural Revolutionary Students League, Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge. That's what they are. That's where they're going, and that's what's next. And yeah, this is it. They now see themselves as superior beings to the rest of us because they believe that they're doing the ultimate work. They're saving the world. This messianic Christian thing is playing in their heads like mental, just like it did with the Bolsheviks. And that's what happened. And you saw the truth. You saw the real world this morning, and the real world is the masses who are standing on the platform, who only want to go to work. The media doesn't give a fuck about them. It doesn't matter if they're white or minorities. It doesn't give a fuck about them. The media loves Extinction Rebellion. And that's all you need to know. What you saw this morning was the world and how it really is. And that's the psychic weather of what happened in Canning Town today.